Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a superhero movie review, and today we have a look at the movie Steel. So Steel stars Shaquille O'Neal as the title character. So in case you don't know, Steel is actually a genuine DC character, and he was introduced around or just after the death of Superman and funeral for a friend storyline where Superman is killed fighting Doomsday. And then after his funeral, there's basically four other Supermen that sort of come up to sort of try and take his place. And Steel is one of them now. In the comics, obviously, everyone's aware that he's not actually physically the same character, but they think maybe Superman's soul is, and his kind of heart is really in Steel. Now, the Superman references are gone from this movie. There's not really any reference to Superman, other than the fact that you sort of see a Superman tattoo on Shaquille O'Neal's arm, and there's a couple of mentions, but it's more in the fact that Superman's a comic book character in this universe rather than it's a shared universe where Superman exists. There's also mentions of the Batcave as well, incidentally. So in this film, basically, Shaquille O'Neal, or John Henry Irons, is in the military, and he's kind of like a weapons developer for the military. And he's kind of developing, with a small team of other sort of weapons developers, some new weapons, like a sonic weapon, plus a kind of like a laser weapon that are ideally going to be sort of to take out tanks and things like that. Now there's one of his colleagues, played by Judd Nelson, is kind of getting a little bit big for his boots and decides he kind of wants to sort of step up and become the main man in it, and ultimately causes an accident which ends up killing a senator and also injuring the other member of the team, which is a female sort of technician Shaquille O'Neal was called Sparky, and they're kind of like good friends and possibly a romantic interest there as well. And she gets crippled by the accident. After that, Judd Nelson's character kind of gets dishonorably discharged and sort of sent on his way, and Shaquille O'Neal decides he's had enough of creating weapons and kind of wants to do his own thing. He kind of goes back home. Unfortunately, Judd Nelson's character conveniently kind of wants to sort of build these sort of like the same weapons and sell them on the black market in the same town as where John Henry Irons resides, and thus kind of forces John Henry Irons to kind of create his own weapon to try and sort of defend the situation, kind of take him down, because obviously he recognises that when the crimes start being committed with these sort of sonic weapons and stuff like that, John Henry Irons basically recognises that these are these same weapons that were developed in the military, and he speaks to the military general or whoever, played by Charles Napier, and says there's none missing. So he basically decides to investigate on his own, creates like a suit of armour, and basically try to track down whoever's supplying these weapons. And it turns out, obviously, it's this character played by Judd Nelson, and he's wanting to sort of develop these weapons to sell on the black market ultimately. And that's kind of the plot of the film. And ultimately, then you basically have Steel trying to stop these kind of weapons from going on, so to find out who's behind it, and on the way, kind of getting a few sort of minor crimes out of the way as well. So there's also all the Superman references are pretty much gone. So it almost seems like a very bit more of a low tech version of Marvel's Iron Man. Now, what I would say here is Iron Man in the Marvel universe, Tony Stark is a weapons developer, but he's kind of, you get the idea that Tony Stark is this billionaire, but plus he's also highly intelligent. Now, no disrespect to Shaquille O'Neal, but the character that he plays in this, he's a weapons developer, but he more seems like a kind of a kind of worker. He doesn't seem like he would be this kind of genius weapons developer. And yes, you could argue he's got these kind of like other sort of colleagues that help him with that, but he does. We are to believe that he's actually developed some of these weapons himself, and that's really the main problem with this film. Obviously, it's Shaquille O'Neal isn't really an actor, and that's blatantly obvious. And I have to say, I actually think this film may have been made. I don't know this for a fact. This is only my opinion. I've got a feeling this film may have been developed to fit around Shaquille O'Neal rather than the other way around. So I don't think they've come up and said, "Oh, I've got a good idea. Let's make a movie about this fairly unknown DC character called Steel." They thought, Shaquille O'Neal, what can we do? What sort of character can we make to sort of fit around, you know, Shaquille O'Neal's massive frame? And here we have it. So I think that's why we've got this kind of very minor DC character a movie of him, because we just had they wanted Shaquille O'Neal's basically a brand. He's obviously a basketball player, but he's had other films. He's had video games, sportswear, you name it. So I think this was the decision. Now this film has a very sort of made for TV look about it. I don't think it was actually made for TV, but it kind of looks like it should have been. The effects are kind of look very much like your kind of 80s sort of laser effects and things like that. You know, so. And the story is fairly cliche. There are some sort of funny bits in it. There's quite an amusing bit at the end where he's sort of talking to the Colonel with a sort of like disguised voice that makes him sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger. They kind of mentioned that. Well, that was quite funny. And you know, it is a cheesy film, and it is the acting isn't fantastic. Special effects aren't all that great, but it is kind of a fun film, to be honest with you. I don't think you can kind of not enjoy yourself whilst watching. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal is physically great for this role. You know, he's an absolute giant of a man. So physically, he's fantastic for it. And the suit of armour, I have to say, looks like more like a knight suit of armour. Doesn't look like it's all that sort of high tech to me. It more looks like he's just coated in medieval armour. He's got a few gadgets in there and stuff like that, but I don't see how it's all that. I mean, there's one point, for example, where he's getting shot by some thugs with like Uzis and what have you, and all these sort of bullets are bouncing off. But he's got this great big sort of like sort of face mask on, but it shows half of his face. I thought all it takes him for one of those bullets to hit his chin or his nose or something, and it will go straight through him. So they obviously want to show Shaquille O'Neal under the mask, but it's kind of not all that practical for that sort of thing. It doesn't sort of argument his strength or anything like that. He's got a couple of gadgets in there, like grappling hooks and things like that. And he also has this sort of big sort of sledgehammer thing that sort of doubles as a gun, although he barely ever uses it as a hammer. He more just uses it as a gun, in which case, why didn't he just have a gun? There you go. So it's, you know, yes, there are some issues with this film, and it's regarded as one of the sort of more crappier sort of superhero films that are available. I don't think it's all that bad if you're just watching it as a piece of entertainment. I certainly appreciate that it has quite a lot of flaws in it, but just as a kind of bit more of a fun film to watch, you know, I was never bored watching this film. I thought it was quite entertaining, and you know, I quite like that. Shaquille O'Neal, though he's kind of like this, he's a bit goofy maybe, but he's kind of fun to watch, to be honest. So I'm going to give this movie a 4.5 out of 10, so slightly below average, which may seem fairly high considering the general sort of feelings of this film. But I'm kind of basing it. I'm not like a critic who's going to look at things too artistically. I'm looking at this more of a sort of friend entertainment value. So 4.5 out for me. How did you feel it sort of did against other superhero films? Do you feel it was a better film than kind of like the renowned crappers like Batman and Robin and Catwoman and that sort of thing? Leave me a comment and I look forward to seeing you next time. See you later.